Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing well. Today we are going to talk about a plane without roof, how it is possible to flying without roof. But it happens. An 84-year-old female passenger who was sitting on seat 5A. She had skull fracture and suffered the most injured. The passenger sitting in the 6A suffered a broken hand. The passenger in 4A and 4F were seriously injured. Basically, most of the passengers in row 4 to 7 were seriously injured because the roof of this area was blown apart. The passengers in rows 8 to 21 were only minorly injured. Apart from this, there were 21 passengers who wasn't injured at all. Air hostess John Seto remained unconscious. She suffered only a concussion. Air hostess Michelle Honda was safe. 58-year-old air hostess C.B. Lansing was the only one who passed away in this incident. Search team tried to find her later, but unfortunately, she disappeared in the depths of the sea forever, and the remaining 49 people were grateful to have survived. Was it mere luck? No, the credit goes to the technical equipment. I am talking about the seat belts. The biggest reason why so many people could survive. As I told you at the first, because the flight hadn't reached the crossing altitude, the seatbelt sign was still on, and the people were wearing their seat belts. Had the people sitting in rows 4 to 8 hadn't worn their seat belts, they too would flown out of the plane. After these incidents, as this news spread, this photo of the plane were published in the newspaper globally. American flight without roof. American National Transportation Safety Board sent a team of investigators to investigate this incident to find the reason of this incident. Investigation team found that this plane had completed 89,600 flight cycle, 35,496 flight hours. The fuel of this plane, the main body of the plane, was weak. Every time this plane was in the air, the metal chute in it expanded to do the pressurized cabin. When it was on the ground, the fuselage contracted. This constant cycle of expansion and contraction made it weak. This was a Boeing 737 plane, light made of aluminum sheet metal panels, arranged circumferentially in a frame. Each panel overlapped each other by 3 inches, and the overlapping area is called the lap joint. Because the thickness of this sheet was the only 1 millimeter, Boeing developed a bonding process to allow this scheme to absorb the stress like a single unit. The company used a strong glue card epoxy to join these different parts of the plane. When this glue dried, a strong board developed to distribute the stress in all the plates. It prevented its cracks. Glue wasn't the only way to keep this sheet together. In addition to the strong bond of glue, the overlapping of every sheet was riveted together. The entire frame of aeroplane could be secured. Boeing's first batch of 737 aeroplanes used this method to join the sheets, but later on problem to using this method. They found that when the moisture content in the air was high, the bonds become weaker. The epoxy glue started degrading, and the metal started corroding. This means that stretch on these sheets were borne by the rivets instead of the glue. Because of this problem, in 1972, Boeing decided to use a new method of attaching those sheets together. They started using hot bonding. It used heat and pressure to attach 2 sheets together. Interestingly, this hot bonding system was already been used since 1972. In Aloha Airlines Flight 243 incident happened 16 years later. So this airline blames for still using this old aeroplane. Boeing had issued a service bulletin in 1972 starting the issue with the airplane and possible problems it may cause. In fact, in 1977, 1 year before this incident, Boeing issued an alert service that their old plane should be inspected and repaired properly, in case any airline were still using this. Apart from this Boeing service decision, stating that in case of a tear in the fuselage, it needed to be limited to 10 inch by 10 inch by 10 inch square. They had placed tear straight at every 25 centimeter of plane body, so that even if any part of the plane body tore, their tear wouldn't spear to the body. But the Flight 243's condition was so terrible. There was enormous creek across of which so many cracks that their tear straps weren't really useful. That NTSB said when this flight reached at crashing altitude, the pressure exerted reached its peak, because of which the individual creeks comes together and the intersection of the roof below appeared. NTSB final report listed 3 main reasons for these incidents. First, the management of Aloha Airline did supervise maintenance program properly and did not assist the inspection and quality control properly. Secondly, the blame of U.S. Federal Aviation Administration to some extent for not requiring a thorough inspection of the joints when issuing the airworthiness directive, whereas Boeing recommended this, told Aloha Airline to use a new testing method to find creaks in the plane's body, the eddy current technique. In this, electric current is passed through the metal to detect even the smallest creaks, which aren't even visible to humans' eyes. Aloha Airlines claimed that they did use this technique to find creaks, but they were later found they were lying properly. Third, when it was discovered that the world problem with the old bonding technique, both Boeing and FAA took this issue lightly. Boeing had designed its 737 plane to 75 cycles. He even thought that total flight hour of Flight 243 was lower than that, but this plane was used for short distance. Because of this, its flight cycle count was 90,000, where Boeing had recommended. The plane were near the end of its 20-year life, which was another reason for this instance. A positive outcome of this instance was that all of the Boeing old aeroplanes were inspected again. And what do they found? Many of them had creaks similar to the creak in the Flight 243. This proved that this problem was limited to this plane. Other planes of the field had this same problem. Other positive outcome was that even since this incident, safety regulations were made instruction all over the world to prevent such incidents from happening over again. In 1991, the Federal Aviation Authority launched its again aircraft safety program. Will need to endure mandatory inspection and control programs. After this, the technique used in aircraft maintenance to detect creaks have also been changed forever, using eddy current ultra-detecting methods that don't really own human eye are now used to detect such a creak early on. New rules were made for high cycle planes like Aloha Airlines flight during trips, where the plane have to complete as many as 10 to 20 flights a day. They are not required to be inspected more frequently. The American government passed a new law, the Aviation Safety Research Act 1988, the better understand and plan for the structure or issue of again aircraft over. Overall, this one incident framed changed the aviation safety standard forever. Because of this, thankfully, since then, an incident of this level hasn't occurred again. While there have been so many improvement in the world science, there are still some people who fail to apply even the basic concept. Okay everyone, this was our story today. I hope you are all enjoyed this. If you had any question, you can ask down below. Thank you. See you next time.